Okay, recording in progress. Okay, so just to give you an idea before I do this PowerPoint, which is, we put together this PowerPoint years ago, and I just looking at it this morning, it actually presents a good overview of empathic communication. So, what the history of how I developed this was once upon a time, I noticed that devotees sometimes they didn't have
ஏற்பாடு
those.
ஏற்பாடு எங்க இருந்து
What was that? Everybody, put yourself on mute, please. And you'll have to give me permission to do to share a screen for the
Yes, Manan, you're
PowerPoint.
the co-host.
Okay. So once upon a time, many years ago, I noticed that in spite of having the best philosophy in the movement, the best process of self-realization, and all those other nice things, that our relationships were very challenged. And I noticed that from the very beginning of my Krishna conscious progress, beginning with 1971, that sometimes our relationships were challenged. In the beginning, I attributed that to just immaturity because we were all 20 years old or 21 years old and just straight out of the womb, basically speaking. So, but then after a while, I discovered that, forgive this analogy, I discovered that we weren't all like good wine that got better with age. They say a good wine, it gets better with age. That the relationships got worse. And in this day and age, I'm seeing that there's so many conflicts that devotees are having from everything from the politics, not just the politics of the movement, but the politics of the outside world. We got some Donald Trumpers and anti-Donald Trumpers. We have some uh, vacciners and anti-vacciners. We have some feminists and we have some chauvinists. There's like right now I'm on the GBC committee that's trying to arrange for ladies to become gurus in the Krishna conscious movement, and I can't believe in the opposition that we're facing. And also, I'm going out to the university 3 or 4 days a week, and I'm seeing that ISKCON's stance on women is going to really lead us to a dead end in preaching, both in India and in the United States. Because I'm also speaking to people from India at the university because a lot of the students are from India, and it turns out a lot of the students from India are actually more westernized than the students from America. So it's an interesting phenomena. So uh, the world is changing anyway. So I don't want to get into preaching right now. Well, I do want to get into it. I'm not supposed to get into it at this particular point. So the world is changing. But anyway, we're running into all these different conflicts, and it's just tearing apart the devotee society. I mean, just this morning, because most of you know that I'm really enthusiastic about people taking the vaccine. And the reason for that is I have a need to protect the devotees. Uh, I'm really enthusiastic about it. So now there's a whole group of devotees in the UK that are dedicated to criticizing me personally, and they added they added me as a participant in the WhatsApp group. And so, how do you deal with these things? I mean, first of all, how do I deal with these things, and how do I see them, and how do I avoid hating people? And how do I avoid becoming depressed myself? I mean, these are all questions that are coming up because basically, we have needs. Now, let me get into empathic communication. So, empathic communication means to really try to connect with other people's needs and feelings. That's basically it. And with your own needs and feelings, because you're also another person, and you're also supposed to love yourself. So, in addition to all these external conflicts going on, we also have all these internal conflicts going on. I mean, a lot. I mean, practically every one of us has internal conflicts, which in psychology are described as, approach, avoidance, avoidance types of conflicts. Anyone who's studied conflict psychology in the university will know what I'm talking about. So that the world is full of conflicts. Conflicts aren't necessarily bad, actually. I just want to make that clear. Because conflicts indicate that there's a diversity. And when you have a diversity, that makes things very beautiful. But if the diversity causes, whoops, there's a chat thing there. Let's see. Hope it's not a comment that helped me. Oh, get into it. So I thought someone was going to say something bad about me. I'm used to that right now. So the conflicts actually are important because without conflicts, we don't do anything. We just sit around and just meditate on our navels or something and chant Om. So we need a conflict just to advance in spiritual life. Just discovering how much attached we are to the material world and also having a spiritual desire. That is a conflict in and of itself, isn't it? And then, we just like beat up ourselves. So how to avoid these conflicts being destructive is the question. How to honor the conflicts, understand what's happening, and avoid destruction internally and destruction externally due to these conflicts. I think that's the real question, and actually turn it into a win-win. When I studied mediation and conflict resolution from different devotees like Braja Bihari and other people, I'm actually a certified mediator, although I don't generally do that because I'm not that much in favor of mediation. I'm in favor of transformational relationships. There's a difference. Mediation means you have two people with some sort of conflict and you come up with like sort of an agreement, a written agreement, but it doesn't transform the relationship. So I'm interested in transformational stuff, not simply dealing with one particular conflict. So I tried to understand why we're dealing with conflicts in an unhealthy way. And I embarked on a course of study. And that study took me to different books, different courses. And then finally, after some time, this is all in the movement. This is not before the movement. Because in the movement, I discovered more conflicts than I ever had outside of the movement. Because Prabhupada said, because we're all coming from diverse backgrounds. When I was young, I wasn't coming from a diverse background where I grew up. Everyone was basically cookie cutter the same. In other words, everybody was the same religion, the same beliefs, the same culture. It was just, whoops, please mute yourself. The same, basically it was the same everything, so didn't have too many conflicts except with my mother, which is quite normal. And I resolved them very easily by disobeying her. So, anyway, so in the movement, the last 20 years or so, I guess it was a long time ago, I just embarked on this study and taking courses and everything like that. And I came across a particular famous psychologist, actually two famous psychologists, one named Marshall Rosenberg, and the other was named Maslow, who some of you may be familiar with. And I don't know which one I read first or heard about first. But in any case, Marshall Rosenberg was a very famous psychologist. The reason I'm saying was because he passed away maybe about a year or two ago. And I studied how he was applying Maslow's hierarchy of needs to conflict resolution and how he was dealing with different conflicts, not only locally in the United States, but also internationally between the Arabs and the Jewish people and different areas around the world between the Muslims and Hindus. He had all sorts of different interests and traveling all over the world, quite famous. And I was quite amazed at his ability to transform. I'm not talking about resolving conflicts. I'm talking about transform the relationship between two opposing factions. Now, he dealt with groups of people sometimes with individuals, marriage conflicts, etc., like that. I was actually quite impressed, and I started studying his materials. I bought all of his books, got all of his videos, and then uh, I decided, and I'm going to explain what his methodology was. I decided to get some training with him. So the training with him was actually quite expensive. And if anyone knows me, I have a conflict whenever I spend money. Even though I drive around a nice car, I never paid for it because it was up to me, I'd be just driving a bicycle all the time, and saving money. So anyway, I have using someone else's car. So I didn't want to spend the money, but I just sort of like closed my eyes, and it was quite expensive to get professional training in conflict resolution and what he called nonviolent communication. So I sort of closed my eyes and bit the bullet and went for an intensives with him. And that means I don't want to use the word association. I mean, he's not a devotee. He was vegetarian and mainly Buddhist oriented, but that's all right. I mean, the Buddhists are into ahimsa. Ahimsa means, according to Prabhupada, nonviolence, and that was Buddha's main teaching, which is a fact. And so I started to learn some things from him, and actually, you can read so many books, and you really don't learn that much just from the books. You learn from directly associating and seeing how things are working and getting training. And so at one point, I actually hired someone to come here, one of the nonviolent communication people in his organization, to come here and train the devotees up. And the person really wasn't connected so much. I mean, he tried. He wasn't so connected to the teachings of nonviolent communication. And then a lot of devotees, I mean, some devotees who I invited to come were really upset that I was asking them to become compassionate. Because the idea in Krishna consciousness is that, we got the demons and the devotees, and, we're supposed to be compassionate, but sometimes by beating people over the head with our philosophy and actually labeling people. I'm actually teaching you the process right now by modeling it, so just try to understand, try to hear what I'm saying. I'm not just giving you a history. I'm modeling some of the aspects of nonviolent communication. So yeah, generally we're taught, preaching. You preach at someone, and you just get them to surrender, and you yell at them. And that's really what happened to me when I first joined the Krishna conscious movement. And therefore I ran away from the devotees for 2 years because they weren't as compassionate as I would like. They even told me that I was not qualified to read Prabhupada's books, that I needed to hear about the philosophy from them rather than directly from His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Really nice, compassionate activity. So yeah, that's what we're accustomed to doing, just putting labels on people. And I noticed I was doing that too. It's really easy to do that with people. There's a demon, there's a karmi, there's a rakshasa, there's a meat eater, and all those other nice things that we do to people, or put on people. And it's a problem. It's a problem. So anyway, getting back to Marshall Rosenberg. So I was able to see how he was able to transform relationships using a very, very simple understanding. Empathic communication is very, very, very simple. Some of his followers present it as a very complex thing. And actually also I wanted to adapt it to Krishna consciousness. And it really adapts very well to Krishna consciousness because when you go back to Maslow, and his hierarchy of needs, you actually see that he presents at the topmost pinnacle of the triangle, or the pyramid, as he calls it, something called self actualization. And we just need to change the name, what? To Krishna consciousness. That's all. Just a question of changing one name on his pyramid of needs, human needs, to Krishna consciousness, basically. And so then I wanted to also see, all right, let me just explain what I'm talking about before I go too fast. So basically, his presentation, Maslow's presentation, and Rosenberg's presentation is that everybody does whatever they do, everybody says whatever they say, everybody feels whatever they feel, everybody whatever, because of needs that are met or unmet. In other words, we're talking about motivation. It's a very easy way to understand motivation. Uh, like when I was in the university, I studied motivation, and it wasn't explained so easily like that. It was just like some complex number of studies. I mean, the university, they just bewilder you with all these different academic studies that don't mean anything because statistics, what do they say? There's lies, damn lies, and statistics. Even I've been seeing that even with the vaccination thing, vaxxers and anti-vaxxers, uh, that both sides use statistics to try, and they just massage their statistics to actually prove their particular point. So, and also, I learned about statistics in the university, so I'm well aware of that. So anyway, everything that people do, think, etc., is due to needs met or unmet. Let me give you a practical example. Okay, so I will take dinner, not now, of course, because it's too early, because I have a need for food. I will breathe because I have a need for air. I will, and I usually use this example, which is actually critical of me. I will speed in my car because I have a need for fun. And I will get a ticket because the police has a need to have people follow the law. And then I will pay my lawyer because I have need to keep my license, which is based on my need for freedom. So anyway, so these are just practical examples of what we do. And again, so let's talk about needs. Okay, so basically, we have basic human or even animalistic needs. Like you taught about the primitive brain, which is what? Fight or flight. The brain stem. So this is like an animal runs away or it hides its head, like an ostrich, because there's something dangerous happening. Or if you're stronger, the animal will actually fight with another animal. Whatever. So these are fight or flight responses, which are completely natural. Now, one thing many psychologists say is that we, instead of fighting or flight or running away, in the modern day and age, because it's not so helpful to fight and it's not so helpful to run away, we develop depression and anxiety instead of fighting with people or instead of running away. So, but these are natural because we have a need for protection. That's why we run away or we fight, right? So there's nothing wrong with that. If someone attacks me, then I will naturally, if I'm more powerful, I'll want to attack back. Like on the internet, like let's give you an example of empathic communication right now. So let's say let me just mute them. Okay. Let's say I received all these messages criticizing me because of my vaccination status. Then my initial response is to send another message out, saying you're a bunch of rascals, demons, rakshasas, whatever you are, and you're offending me, and don't you understand you're going to hell because, I'm a sannyasi, I'm a wonderful devotee and everything like that. You're not supposed to offend Vaishnavas is the first principle. So that's my initial response, to fight. Uh, and, another response I may have is just like block them on the internet. So in both cases, it's causing me stress. So what I do empathically in those cases is basically one or two things. I get in touch with my own needs. Let's say I feel like fighting them. Okay, I am angry. I get in touch with the emotion. Like, I'm not going to get a chance to teach you everything in this hour. So I get in touch with my emotion. I'm angry. Okay, anger. Instead of thinking, I shouldn't be angry. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, lust, anger, and greed are three pathways going to hell. I can think like that, and then I can start beating myself up and saying, I'm angry. Oh, this is bad. No, I say, I'm angry because of my need for what? Understanding, and my need for relationships and communication and empathy from others. That's why I'm angry. So I'm owning my anger. So once I own the anger and I wouldn't say credit, but I'm actually take responsibility for my own anger, then I'm not so angry anymore because I'm taking responsibility for it. It's not that I suppress or repress the anger, but I'm aware of it. I become more conscious of it. So the anger is not bad. Sometimes I use the example that you're driving a car and a red light goes on in your dashboard, and the red light says, no oil. Now, the red light is not bad. It's the lack of oil in the car that's bad. But I've had people who see a red light on the dashboard and they disconnect the wires from the red light because they don't want to be bothered by it. And then the car engine goes kaput eventually. So really we have to be aware of these symptoms. The emotions are either red lights or green lights. Hey, I never used that one before. Something new each time. Something new for you, she's rather going to use. So the emotions are either red lights or green lights. It could be a green light because it means go ahead. A red light because we have to deal with something. Not just stop, not just repress, not suppress, but what need is there? Become aware of your need. Okay. And I mentioned before, my need is one of compassion, understanding, loving relationships, and they're not being met by those people. That's okay. Those people don't have to meet my needs. I have other means to meet my needs. I have other things. Oh, let me show you one. Okay. Here's another need, another way I have to meet my needs. I have my Yoda here. He's always friendly. He's smiling, and he gives me good instructions, and he loves me. Okay, throw him away. So, anyways, joking aside, we have other needs. As soon as we focus on someone else that they have to do something, they have to meet our needs, then we got a really bad relationship there and we become hateful towards other people. So this gives us emotional independence to think like that. That's really important because you have to have a clear mind in Krishna consciousness. Emotionally independent. And so therefore, all right, that's all right. And then I look at them, and instead of thinking or saying anything negatively about them, I try to understand their needs. Now, what is their need? I can guess at it, and I don't communicate with them. There's no need for me to do that. Everything can be done, on the subtle platform. And their needs perhaps are they're feeling frustrated because they're being forced to take a vaccine by the government. And most of those people are in the UK, where the UK has been a little heavier than the United States in dealing with its citizens. And they have really stringent requirements. When you go in the country, you got to take a test after a day you've been in the UK, and it's actually not as free as America, the home of the free, land of the brave. So, so therefore, I get it. I understand them. Wow, and I feel compassionate. I'm connected with them. They may not feel connected with me, but that's their issue. I'm not. I own my own issues. I don't own anyone else's issues. That's really emotional freedom, where one is not controlled by someone else's sayings, someone else's actions, and I feel free. I'm not hateful towards them. I'm feeling loving towards them. I'm thinking that they're really struggling with their emotions right now and their feelings right now. So there's a practical example of how you use this understanding that needs are at the very foundation, or needs met or unmet, are at the very foundation of everything, every action, even animals. Animals act according, they want food, they want shelter. You see your dog comes up to you and begs because it wants some food or it wants you to love it or whatever. Your cat is rubbing against you because the cat is actually, of course, probably none of you have cats or dogs, but the cat is rubbing against you because the cat wants to delineate its territory. It's one of defense or take possession of you. So it's all needs. And if you can do that, you can deal with almost any situation in a peaceful way if you take the time to think about it. So that's really empathic communication in a nutshell. It's not really hard. Orange heart. Oh my God, I got all these messages. Orange heart. So grateful for your association. Thank you. That's appreciation. So, all right, let's go through the needs anyway so we can understand them. I have a chart here. Anyway, it's not important. I don't have time to go through the chart. But these basic needs, which I mentioned before, shelter, air, comfort, bodily comfort, things like that. And then we get further up the chart, and we get into needs like social needs or friendship needs. We have a need for fun. And of course, that need for fun, sometimes spiritualists think, I don't have a need for fun. I am Krishna conscious. Whoops. I'm getting all these messages at the same time. I have a need to concentrate. So, so then we have a need for autonomy. I'll give you an example of autonomy, a need for autonomy. For example, let's say you have a little kid. A kid is not a goat. A kid is a child. So let's say you have a little child, and when the child's really young, let's say 1 year old, 6 months old, the child is actually very compliant, except when it wakes you up in the middle of the night, starts crying, and you can't sleep. But generally, a 6-month-old kid is not telling you no. Probably hasn't learned the word no at that particular point. So when the child reaches 2, there's something that parents call the terrible twos. That's when the child learns to say no. And it's, whoops, let me just mute you. Okay, I just muted. I tried to mute someone. Okay, I muted her. That's when the child learns to say no. And so the parents think, terrible, terrible, terrible. The child is saying no. I wanted the child to be a little clone and a robot. Well, if you wanted a robot, you should just, whatever, get a robot. You can go to Japan, they have these nice robots now, and you can buy them. You can have a wife robot or a husband robot, a child robot, a dog robot. The Japanese are very expert in that. But you had a child. So the child has a need for autonomy. Now, you should be celebrating when the child says no. Why should you be celebrating? Because the child is demonstrating their needs, their individuality. You know, you don't want the child hanging on to your apron strings for the next 50 years. I seen children like that. Now, boys that are with their mothers when they're 60 years old. And it's not pleasing. They have to develop their own. So that's the need for autonomy, to making your own decisions. Now, unfortunately, we find in a institution such as ISKCON, such as the church, such as whatever institution you're a member of, one is made to adhere to some institutional directions. Like sometimes in ISKCON, you actually hear the statement when you meet a new devotee, you ask a devotee, "Who is your authority?" You know, authority. You know, I'm 72 years old. I mean, who is my authority? I mean, of course, one sense, Prabhupada's my authority, but you know, Prabhupada allows. He says. Prabhupada said we want independent thinkers in our Krishna conscious movement, not blind followers. So Prabhupada wanted that autonomy within certain constraints. Prabhupada didn't want us breaking the principles, but Prabhupada wanted us adjusting the details in order to present Krishna consciousness. Like everybody knows that, you know, I play the guitar or do a few little detailed things that are different. So, but to have someone running your life, authority, sounds like the army. I mean, I was speaking. This is interesting. I was speaking to someone who was a Marine this morning, a devotee who's a member of the Marines, and we were talking about vaccinations. And he wasn't really against vaccinations, but he was against the point that they're just taking charge of his body and making him do whatever they want to do and sticking whatever they want to stick within the body. And that's really the need for autonomy there. So he's not precisely an anti-vaxxer. He's someone who wants to express his need for autonomy. So it's really important to understand that, within limits, of course, that we have a need for autonomy, and important to understand we have a need for fun, and important to understand we have a need for close relationships, and we have a need for love. You know, that, you know, sometimes when a sannyasi says, you know, you have a need for love, they'll think he's in trouble. So, but there's different strategies. Love doesn't mean, you know, romantic with little Italians playing the violin as you're eating your prasadam. You know, like, I don't know if you've ever seen these movies where there's a couple sitting at a table and the violin players come up and they're playing and the couple's drinking their wine. That's not what love is. But we have a need for society, friendship, and love. Everybody does. Like I have the Society of Devotees. I mean, this is my family. The Society of Devotees. And we have loving exchanges. And we have people who don't like me. But that's okay. Because I respect that. I like that individuality. It gives me a challenge when people don't like me. It's actually fun when people don't like me. See, when you're emotionally independent, you're not controlled by other people's feelings or needs. You just have your own feelings and needs, and you make relationships voluntarily instead of demanding that someone must like me, must love me, must respect me. It's crazy. I mean, respect, love, and everything has to be earned. It can't be legislated. For example, in ISKCON, we try to legislate. This is the problem with institutions. We try to legislate so many things. We have this one particular point that the GBC talks about, that people's main relationship should be with Prabhupada. Now, my main relationship is with Prabhupada. That is true. I mean, I'm not going to deny that. But how can you legislate relationships? So the GBC will pass a rule or a proposal, resolution, whatever you may call the thing, legislating relationships. And that, to me, that's wild. How can you legislate someone's relationship with someone else? You know, it's like saying you should love one kid more than another kid. You know, if you have 2 children, 3 children. Uh, Relationships are relationships. They're based upon a person's relationship. I know I'm defining the thing by the very same thing, by the very same word. But that's really what it is. It's all voluntary. And everything has to be voluntary as far as relationships, feelings, have to be voluntary because we have the need for autonomy again. Otherwise, it's not a relationship. If I put a gun to your head and said, you better like me, buddy, then, you know, how is that like? It's like Krishna in the Gita. At the end of the Bhagavad Gita, he says to Arjuna, now you've heard all these things, you decide. It's your decision. He doesn't give him a guilt trip. He doesn't say, Arjuna, if you don't do this, then you're not my friend anymore. I'll never play with you anymore. You know, little boys say this, I'm not going to play with you anymore. You're not my friend anymore. So can you imagine if Krishna said that to Arjuna? It would be hilarious. He says, basically, now you heard it, you decide. Of course, Krishna makes a very convincing argument in the Bhagavad Gita, you know, universal form and all those stuff about the modes of nature. I mean, there's a lot of convincing arguments, but he wants Arjuna to surrender voluntarily, so Krishna wants us to love him voluntarily. Sometimes people ask the question, why doesn't Krishna force us to surrender? Or even the word surrender, but why doesn't Krishna force us to surrender? Because if Krishna forces us to surrender, we wouldn't be individual entities anymore. We wouldn't be his parts and parcels. Mame vangsa jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. If Krishna forced us to surrender, we would be robots. We'd be non-sentient entities. Actually. So therefore, let me just mute that last person who just came on. Okay. They are muted. So therefore, Krishna never forces that. So Krishna respects that independence. So anyway, so going up the hierarchy of needs, then there's a need for understanding, a need, and some, I'm sure I left out some needs. And ultimately, you have the need for Krishna consciousness. Now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I wanted to make this point very, very clear, because also Bhaktivinoda Thakur supports this analysis of Marshall Rosenberg and Maslow, in that he says that one needs to take care of the lower needs in order to reach the higher need. He makes this point very, very clear in his Chaitanya Shikshamrita. Prabhupada makes the point very clear in his story in the 8th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, of Gajendra Mokshana. You know, you have, let me tell that story for a second. Gajendra, the elephant, is fighting the crocodile on the water. The crocodile is winning. And so ultimately Krishna comes and saves the scene, kills the crocodile, saves the elephant. Yeah, that's fine. But Prabhupada uses that as a metaphor for how people need to be aware, and I'm paraphrasing, because Prabhupada's using it as a metaphor in terms of ashrams. But Prabhupada uses a metaphor to say that how people should be aware of their different needs. You know, someone may have a need to be married. Someone may have a need to be sannyasi, like me. And it's not that one is worse or one is better. The whole point is to progress in spiritual life gradually. I often use the example of a tortoise and the hare. A hare is a rabbit. That you all know that example, the race between the tortoise and the hare runs very fast, and then he takes a little nap in the middle of the day instead of chanting his japa, And then the tortoise just keeps plodding along gradually, 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 and he reaches the goal. In the meantime, the hare is just sleeping the day away. So the point is that we have to be aware of our basic needs and not be embarrassed by them. You're not the Goswamis of Vrindavan. You have a need for sleep. You have a need for rest. You have a need for recreation. There's another one, recreation, that I forgot before. You know, play, recreation, autonomy, friendship, love. You know, you have all those needs, and if you don't meet those needs and you go for the higher spiritual needs, guess what? You'll do something called blooping. That's Prabhupada's word. Blooping means, Prabhupada invented that word. He said when one comes down from the spiritual world, they go, ooh, bloop. They end up in, like you see a stone goes into the water, it makes the sound bloop. So they'll end up blooping. And actually there's a quote from Maslow. I have it, let me just bring it here. Which is quite a sophisticated quote. And the reason I printed it out is because I get asked to do these seminars all the time, and tomorrow I'm doing one early in the morning for the pujaris in Europe. So they'll be empathic with the deities and with each other. And also, anyway, there's one in the GBC college, but fortunately, Shri Radhika does the one in the GBC college for me. And she's quite expert, actually. She's very advanced in this. So anyway, let's read a quote from Abraham Maslow, and this is from a book called The Tortoise Psychology of Being. And this is the same thing Bhaktivinoda Thakur says. He says, a kind of pseudo-growth, pseudo means false, pseudo-growth takes place very commonly when the person tries, by repression, that means not being aware of their needs, not being aware of their feelings, denial, I'm not angry, reaction formation, just basically reaction formation is something like when you take a balloon and you twist the balloon and it pops out one place and then it pops out another place. That's reaction formation. Emotionally, we're talking about emotionally or physically or whatever like that. To convince himself that an ungratified basic need has really been gratified. In other words, to be in denial of certain basic needs. Really, that's really important. Really, really important. And I see people just not aware of it. I see people taking a philosophical stance because, let's say someone, all right, let's use the example. I'm not going to bring forth any names, but people who really just go there on the internet and they give classes really in opposition to what the GBC is saying. I'm not saying the GBC is perfect or anything like that, but their whole life is based on opposition. And that may be because of the need for autonomy, the need for understanding, or the need for love. Sometimes people act angry because they want love, attention. So, convince himself that an ungratified basic need has really been gratified. Just like, I'm all right, I have to be political in this circumstance. But let's say someone is really a chauvinist. I don't think you know what a chauvinist is. Chauvinist, it means they're anti-women. The women should just stay in the kitchen, should just roll chapatis all the time. That's their only business. I have godbrothers who are like that. And I've had discussions with them because I'm part of this GBC committee. And one of them even does not let his wife wear shoes, even when she's going through the airport in Mumbai. So anyway, this is how dramatic things get. Sometimes in ISKCON, I just have to do a reality check. Is this a dream I'm having, or is it actually real life? When I see a woman going through the airport in Mumbai without shoes on, it's just like, and her husband is a prominent member of the Krishna conscious movement. Anyways, I've learned a lot in ISKCON. Well, I'll tell you why. I've learned a lot. It's not ISKCON per se, it's any religious organization. Because in religion, you have people put labels on other people. We have tons and tons of labels. If you're a Muslim, you have tons and tons of labels, a kafir, infidel. We are the same. Yesterday we were talking about the unity of religions. Well, practically all organized religions have the same dynamics. These same dynamics. That's why Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and I'm not talking against organizations because we need one. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said there's never been a time when organization, I'm just paraphrasing, has not destroyed the spirit of a religion. Because you've got all these dynamics, especially the one where people call each other names and you label. This is an empathic communication language, which I'm not getting into a full course today, but I'm just modeling certain things. This is called diagnosis, where you just put a label on someone, a kafir or meat eater or karmi. We got to get away from these different labels. And because we have these labels, we don't deal with people in terms of who they are. We deal with people in terms of their label. Right? We see them through that lens. It's like rose-colored glasses. You see everything as red. So you see everybody in terms of whatever label you put on people, which we call a diagnosis. So anyway, that's the problem with religions. And therefore, you find, not just me, and not just you, but it is found through studies that 80% of religious people members of religious institutions, are less empathic, in touch with themselves or in touch with other people. It's not the fault of the religion. It's the fault of the labeling, which naturally comes when you have books. You do label. But you have to be very much aware. Prabhupada, he dealt with the labels in his books, but he never acted in terms of those labels. When Prabhupada dealt with someone, he didn't deal with them as demons or karmis or whatever. He dealt with them in a very personal, empathic way. Prabhupada, I have many examples in my book and examples in my course where Prabhupada was dealing with devotees using the understanding which Prabhupada had. Of course, we don't think that Prabhupada took this course, but anyway, with the understanding that Prabhupada how to connect to people through their feelings and needs. Prabhupada was a natural in dealing with people. So people become confused sometimes, and they say, well, Prabhupada said this in his books, but he acted that way. I mean, it's real challenge for people to understand that. Well, in the books, you need definitive language. In the books, you cannot have like vague statements like that. There's a difference between defining something and practical action, or how to apply that. And most devotees, most people in all religions don't understand the difference between theory and application. And our theory is perfect. But there's application. Like you have Varnashram, for example. Perfect system. But how do you apply it in the modern day? We have some devotees who want to apply Varnashram wholesale and just designate other devotees as Shudras or, Vaishyas or something like that. Prabhupada didn't advocate that. Prabhupada wanted Varnashram. But what did Prabhupada want in terms of how to apply it is the point. So people take it wholesale out of the books. And that's That's another problem that creates conflicts, or not only creates conflicts, but exacerbates conflicts in our Krishna consciousness movement. People don't know how to apply it. It's real. Prabhupada talked about realization. I was listening to a class this morning. Every morning I listen to a Prabhupada class. And Prabhupada was talking about realization. You know, prachakshavogam dharmyam shushakam kartamavyam. Direct perception. So we really need people who are realized, otherwise there are going to be more conflicts. So let me, I only have 3 more minutes. Oh my God. And I didn't even get a chance to present it. Wanted to use my slideshow, which I haven't used for a while. So let me finish Maslow's quote. He says, we convince ourselves that ungratified basic need has really been gratified or doesn't exist. I don't have a need for fun. I don't have a need for loving relationships. Rupa Goswami talks about loving relationships. Dati pratigranati guyamakyati prichati. I mean, he's the Goswami. He's completely renounced. And yet he's talking about loving relationships. What about loving relationship with Krishna? What about loving relationships with all of Krishna's parts and parcels? Prabhupada actually loved everybody. I remember Prabhupada even loved the bug. There was a bug eating a flower inside Prabhupada's room, and Prabhupada said, take him outside so he has something to eat. So what is that? Love. So anyway, so it doesn't exist. He then permits himself, this is really important, to grow on to higher level needs like self-actualization, stuff like that, which of course forever after, rest on a very shaky foundation. In other words, when you don't have a foundation, you haven't met your basic needs. I mean, for example, if I'm hungry right now, I'm not going to be able to present this very well. I'm not hungry. And I'm not going to be very empathic with people. I'm just going to be thinking about, where's the food? I gave this example the other day. One time I was walking in the forest, and I was really hungry. And then all the trees started to look like food to me. I just had to restrain myself from eating the leaves on the tree. Because when you have these basic needs, it's like that. So it rests on a very shaky foundation. And he continues, this is almost finished. I call this pseudo-growth by bypassing the ungratified need. It's pseudo-growth. Such a need perseveres forever as an unconscious force. Repetition compulsion. I think you'll recognize that word, obsessive compulsive. So in other words, that's called sublimation. You understand? Those of you who study psychology know sublimation. Sublimation means you have a desire, same thing as the balloon example. It comes out, you press it down one place, the balloon, like Sadhvi Prabhu, she actually makes these balloon puppets, and that's how she makes the balloon puppets or whatever, figures. It perseveres as there, one way or the other. It comes out, let's say if they have a need for love, it may come out as anger. And so one has to be aware of all their basic needs. So, just to sum it up, empathic communication means to be empathic with yourself, to love yourself, become aware of your own needs. And when you're aware of your own needs and you've developed strategies for your own needs, then you can become aware of other people's needs and become empathic, not sympathetic, because empathy is about the other person. Then you can be empathic with others, not to change them, but simply to connect with them. So the purpose is to connect with yourself, to connect with others, ultimately, so you can progress in spiritual life, Krishna consciousness, and go back to Godhead, back to home, back to Godhead, and help others go back to home, back to Godhead. And that's it in a nutshell. And there's a lot more. There's a lot more, but basically the rest is techniques. Techniques and understanding of blocks of communication. You know, we have 4 Ds of discommunication, and we have a way of processing things, but I don't want to present that in the beginning because then it encourages people to become very ritualistic in empathy, which is not really what I'm talking about. One of the criticisms that I have heard of many people who take up nonviolent communication is that they apply it in a ritualistic way. In other words, they'll say, oh, you have a feeling, therefore you must need this. And so that drives people crazy. If I was to go to you and say, you sound like you're feeling angry, you must have a need for food. Can I give you a sweet ball? You know, that that would drive people crazy. So, oh, we have she, Radhika shared something. Let's see, showed you shit. Oh, empathic communication. What's that? The book or?
That's a flyer for the support group, Maharaj, if you want to.
Oh, the support group. Okay. So Radhika is running a support group of empathic communication. And as I said, that she's been working with me for several years. And she's very expert. And anyone wants, they can join her support group for empathic communication. She's a very, very nice devotee, soon to leave Chicago, not to come here, unfortunately. Wish that she and her family could come here. But they're really instrumental, transformational communication. And anyway, she's very good. So I recommend that, or other devotees can make support groups. Or if anyone's interested in learning more, then I have all these seminars on my YouTube channel, Krishna Goswami. If anyone wants to get a copy of my book about empathic communication, I'm soon to write another book about it, and I want to work with Sri Radhika writing a workbook on empathic communication. So there's a lot of stuff going on. Anyway, anyone who needs more materials, please contact me about it. Okay? So, Ujjwala, you got me to speak.
Combined emotions, grateful and also apologetic too. Maharaj, with the busy schedules, I could some mixed emotions, but more grateful. And if I could show this book, Maharaj.
Yeah, you could show the book.
This empathic communication, I just took it and it was sitting there for some time. And when I went to my daughter's room, I actually gifted this to them. This book, I thought maybe more for people, organizers, managers like that. But when I opened this book and started reading, like, this is something everybody needs. As you just said, we want to connect to ourselves, care ourselves, give the care that we need. And then as you mentioned, emotional independence, and then we'll be able to serve and handle properly what we need to do externally. So that's why I thought this book is for everyone, not for just the leaders or managers or anybody. That was a really good one, Maharaj. Hearing about this empathic communication from somebody is so different from hearing from a, sorry to use this word, a spiritual authority. I still have to use that word because when we are trying to learn the process of bhakti, as natural as it is actually, but when we are getting to know more about it, hearing a different facet of it, where a natural practice comes out, and we have to facilitate that natural process that comes out, where the bhakti comes out, and the ingredients of the natural process of bhakti is self-care and caring for others. To actually get that picture, when when people, advanced souls like you speaking, then it supports our ideas and understanding, because we are in an institutional setting, and what we hear are kind of the same thing again and again, but what we hear from you and is more like a kind of thinking outside the box to give a better picture of how we can actually naturally practice bhakti. So all these versions, when coming from you, Maharaj, it really helps us to practice bhakti at a natural and deeper level, Maharaj. This is why I was really looking forward to this kind of talk from you.
Thank you very much, and it meets my need for contribution to Prabhupada's society.
Yeah.
So I've just modeled what appreciation is, because usually if someone appreciates you, you say, oh, it was nothing. But that's actually like a slap in the person's face. So it's, we need appreciation. I mean, praise is one thing, but someone says, you are wonderful, you are great, that doesn't help at all. But a real appreciation means to say basically how you feel, how it helped you, and what need it's met. And you basically said that, in what you said. So that's real appreciation. And I appreciate your appreciation, because that gives us energy to continue. So, yeah, there's many chapters in the book we deal with appreciation. I think half the book is actually dealing with how to raise children, which is kind of interesting. Since I've never really raised a child, I'm not even sure I've raised disciples. Anyways.
Can we open up for some questions, Maharaj? Aditya and Prabhu?
All right. Oh, yes.
Please.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. It was such a wonderful, very powerful, and so many points that came up that, is actually inspiring me to think more deeper on this subject. Like personally for me also, how can I be more in touch with my own emotions? Like the physical aspect is easier to see, but to actually be in touch with our own emotions, like how can I actually develop? Because I was thinking it's more of a habit or culture, because up to this point, maybe it's not, so much of the point of thinking that, okay, what emotion am I feeling now? But, after hearing this, it's just like inspires us that maybe I should cultivate that kind of thinking to be more aware. Maharaj, a few minutes.
Yeah, let me add, wait, let me, if you don't mind, I'd like to deal with what you just said.
Yes, Maharaj, please.
So yes, it's a practice, like anything, sadhana. And one important aspect of being in touch with your own feelings and emotions is a word called vulnerability. Like many of us are ashamed to admit to ourselves, what to speak of others, that we have some needs or have some feelings. We can't do it. And if anyone's noticed about me, it's just that I definitely don't worry about what other people think about me. And it's really helped me a lot. I mean, obviously I'm not just like doing things that are just like counterproductive for Krishna consciousness. But I don't really care. I don't really care how people think about me, because I just want to please Krishna. And if people like it or not, and sometimes I'll do things that'll evoke people's anger. I mean, the other day I really stressed in a very heavy way about getting a vaccination. I got a lot of people angry with me, but I understand why I did that. The reason I did that was to meet my own need. I was angry, yes, to meet my own need, because there's some pain there due to losing a number of my dear godbrothers, especially Bhakti Chumarj, who's my dear friend. So, I'm going to express it. I mean, what can I say? If I have some feeling, I'm going to express it. And, whatever. And I'll tell you why I expressed it in such a heavy way, because of that particular need. So that means being vulnerable. I mean, I'm not going to make excuses that, and I'll reveal my feelings. And it's hard, because like Ujjwala Rasagya said that I'm an authority. You have there's this barrier too, just to be honest, not from my part, but from other people's parts, because people see me in terms of my position. They put the big A on my chest, which means authority. And it just really, people become shocked when they see me acting like a normal human being. I've had that comment before. that that people say, "You're normal." I said, "What do you think?" You know, I'm supposed to be normal. So, so I want to be normal. I have a need to be normal. I have a need to act like a normal person. Also, do my responsibility for Prabhupada. I have my responsibility. I'm very happy to serve Prabhupada in that way. But also, I have a need for normal human relationships. And it's important to be vulnerable. And so what Aditya Narayan Prabhu was talking about was that we have to practice this. And we have to be ready to take, attacks or people not understanding us in practicing this. But if you understand yourself and love yourself, it's not going to really destroy you. The first point is love yourself. Why should you love yourself? Because you're part and parcel of Krishna. If you love Krishna, you got to love yourself. You say, well, I'm supposed to love all living entities, but myself I'm supposed to hate. That's really nice philosophy. Okay, any other questions or points?
Yes, Maharaj, there's Preeti Mataji has raised her hand. Please go ahead.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for this class. Please accept my humble obeisances, Maharaj. Just what you were saying just now, that you are a normal person, and that's the best thing that I like, that you're so approachable. Even though we do see you as a spiritual authority, and I'm new to New Golok at the time, but what I see is you're very approachable. So that's how I feel very inspired, because it's not that you are somewhere that we cannot even come over and talk to you. And for that, I'm very, very thankful, Maharaj, very thankful. This is so helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that one, because I want to be a normal person with normal human relationships.
Yes, Maharaj,
it's,
it's very helpful to me, at least. I can speak for myself. For me, I feel this is wonderful, because you can, we can approach you easily, and you can talk to you as like a normal person. Thank you.
And I like to, and I'd be unhappy on any other way, because we're all here together, trying to be Krishna conscious, trying to please Srila Prabhupada. I mean, it's just to be seen in terms of my label. Oh, that's misery. Okay, I think Purva has a question. You need to unmute yourself, Purva Prabhu.
Thank you, Maharaj. This was a very inspiring talk. I wish I got on at the beginning. Are you going to do this on a regular daily basis? I mean, every week.
I don't plan on doing it. I'm asking Sri Radhika to this. Whatever I spoke about today is going to be uploaded on YouTube in the Wholesome Devotee. I'm a wholesome devotee. Wholesome Devotee Care series, and we have other devotees like Sri Radhika who are very expert. She's, like I said, she's been working with me for a number of years, and who are very expert in facilitating this. And I definitely have requests all over the place. Like tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock, I have to do one for the pujaris in Europe, and there's the time factor. There's a time factor. So I think the best use of my time is perhaps giving an introduction to it, and maybe some larger seminars later on where, because it's pretty large, 32 people. But I gave a series in Gita Nagari 2 years in a row. And also in Slovenia, I did some that are on my YouTube channel, Bir Krishna Goswami. And I'm sometimes feeling overwhelmed with everything I have to do. And do, I like, as far as my own life right now, I'm doing this, yes, but I would actually like to get into writing now again, my old age, writing about applying some bridge books, applying empathic communication and bringing people to Krishna consciousness using empathic communication. And then also, I'm doing a lot of interaction in the university right now, trying to understand the mindset of our youth in America. And Aditya Narayan Prabhu has done an expert job in cultivating many of our youth at the North Carolina State University. And they all love him. So I'm just trying to play catch up with him right now to try to understand how to apply Krishna consciousness in the modern world, because people change, their psychology changes, and mainly I've been in ISKCON so many years that I still remember George Washington as the president of the United States. I don't remember. It's almost like that. If someone says Donald Trump, it sounds like one of the cartoon characters I used to watch years ago. Years ago, who was a duck. Anyway, so apart from that joke, um, so there's time commitments. There's time commitments, and I think that because of my position, also, and because people tend to see me in a certain way, I think it's very effective to have empathic communication practice groups or groups where people get together regularly. And Sri Radhika is running, or will be running, a number of these groups, and I think that'll be really good for people, because then people just interact with their peers. And of course, I like to be one of the peers too, but people don't always see me like that, so it's better. Anyway, I'm just making excuses.
You've greatly inspired me to crack open that book and buy a few others for my godbrothers. Thank you ever so much for your wonderful contribution. May Krishna give you a long life, and all of us, your association. Thank you.
Thank you, Purva Prabhu. I really appreciate that. Long life. Okay. So, any other questions or comments from anybody?
Maharaj, devotees are asking on the chat whether this book will be available in temples. Can we have
In
few
the
copies?
temple? Well, it's available on Amazon.com. I think that's a good way to get it. And it's also available as a Kindle, an ebook on Amazon.com. And anyone who wants a free ebook, I can send it to them. I'm not making money, obviously, from this. I just wanted the book distributed at cost to people. So that's why I have Amazon. Amazon is really good. They'll deliver to you within a day or two, anywhere in the world. They print in Australia, they print in Europe. Leela Shakti has a few copies. And it's, I've been giving it out to university students who are taking notes on it. So it's available, and I want to come out with more editions and future editions of the book and re-edit it and come out with other books about empathic communication in the future. So it's available. I mean, some of the temples have it. I know it's been translated into Spanish, Russian, Hindi. There's several different languages like that. It's been translated and distributed in those languages. So if you're not a native English speaker, then I can send you an e-copy. It hasn't been printed in those languages, but if you want to print it, I'll give you the rights to print it in those languages. I'm not, like I said, it's not something, I don't make money, and all the printing actually is done for free by Amazon as a print-on-demand thing. So when you pay them, it just goes into print to print whatever you pay. So it's not a profit item. So, any other questions?
Maharaj, I had a question if no one else.
Yeah.
Maharaj, when we meet people, many times, their motivation to come to Krishna consciousness is some need, whether that's maybe
Yeah.
mostly emotional, or people come and say where they can connect. And I was actually thinking on the point, like our presentation, like normally is we give the spiritual aspect of, like how Krishna consciousness would actually help them. And now after this whole seminar, I'm thinking, like, how can we also, like, connect that emotional, because we are making the point that if that emotional need is not fulfilled, then the foundation itself is kind of not balanced, and then, like, even they are taking up Krishna consciousness, that point will again come again and again in their spiritual life also. So how can we, like, when we are, people approach us, like, present both the aspects, or like how, not if it's a serious emotional thing, then we have professionals, but
Yeah.
just talking of
Yeah, I actually that's a very good point. In my interactions with people, just about everybody has really deep emotional needs for one reason or another. I mean, all the cultures, and I'm not just talking about Americans or not just talking about people from India. There's really deep emotional needs that have not been met for one reason or other. And what I have been doing is listening to the person first, asking about their interest, and connecting. My business is not to fulfill anyone's emotional needs. Remember that. If you think like that, you become codependent with people. There's transference in relationships. Transference is really bad. They'll see the therapist as, their best friend, which you really don't want, and it's going to be overburdened for you. So what I try to do is connect to their emotional needs and help them, facilitate them becoming aware of their emotional needs on the pyramid of going up to Krishna consciousness. So I connect it. I actually directly, what I've been doing recently is directly talking about empathic communication with the topmost point, Krishna consciousness. So in other words, I don't just facilitate their emotional need. All right, you have a need for shelter or safety or something like that. I help them become aware of it. I will guess at their emotional need, or their need, not just emotional, but there's physical needs. I will guess at it and talk about this whole hierarchy. And a lot of people are aware of the hierarchy of needs. It's actually very, very interesting. A lot of people, at least in the university, are aware of Maslow and his studies, and they've never really connected it to themselves. It just becomes part of their academic studies. And so I connected to them, and then I put Krishna consciousness on the top. And then I said, you got to have, what is your life's vision? What is your life's goal? It's like a facilitation type of thing. If you had, what is your strategic plan for your life? And then I do certain things, like if someone says my strategic plan is to get married and be happy, I'll say to them, why? And when you use the word why, they'll start to think more deeply. They'll say something, well, because I want to be fulfilled. I said, why do you want to be fulfilled? So I may drill down. This is one thing I do I hate to use the word technique, but I may drill down a few times, like to the why factor, because it's really important that most of us are doing things and we're connected with the how and what, but not the why. In Krishna consciousness, that's called niyamagraha. As you're aware, Rupa Goswami talks about this. He says that it's one of the causes of fall down, actually, is niyamagraha. That when you do things without being connected to the why of why you're doing things, Krishna consciousness, then it's just ritualistic. So Krishna says, one who offers me a leaf of fruit, a little water, with love and devotion. So there's the why over there. It's not the leaf of fruit or water that's the point. You have devotees who offer to Krishna a banana peel with love and devotion, and Krishna was pleased. So it's actually the why factor that's extremely important. And so I try to help people understand the why of their lives in terms ultimately they want to be happy. Okay, and then you can bring a little Krishna consciousness in that, you may, at different circumstances, you may say you're getting old, you see people die, you bring a little bit of, not too heavy like that. And but we really want to be happy eternally. We want knowledge, and then we bring in Satchidananda, full of bliss. Like Prabhupada did this in his preaching, same thing. We want to be eternal, full of bliss, and full of knowledge. And that's our nature. And that's fulfilling to us. And then the person naturally want to know more about it. And what I find is when you can help people connect with their basic needs and maybe philosophically understand the ultimate need, then they really feel connected with you and connected with Krishna consciousness. Because the one thing that people lack more than anything else nowadays is connection. In America we have enough food in most cases like that and everything else. But, relationships are really strained in America. We're not connected, and people don't understand us. I mean, how many people do we have who really understand us? Isn't it? We go in front of a devotee, and devotee just preaches to us, tells us, you're in Maya, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. But how many friends, like the Dati Project Granati, Guyam Akyati Prichati, really important. Guyam, revealing the mind and confidence. So if you give people that opportunity, now one thing, like I'm dealing with the university people now. So my whole idea is that, in the programs you do on Wednesday, there's a lot of people. So what I'm doing is meeting with people more or less individually, or 2 or 3 at a time, or most 5, and dealing with, connecting with them. And my experience is that's what they need more than anything else, that personal connection and interest. And as devotees, we are interested in them. Not as, numbers, bhakta points or anything like that. But we're interested in them because they're part and parcel of Krishna. So you see them in their eternal designation as Mamevangsa Jivaloke Jivabhuta Sanatana, as part and parcel of Krishna. So in this way, they really feel connected. I mean, when I've been doing the, going on, half a week at the university, I'm just almost fully engaged in meeting with people all the time. I hardly have any spare time to myself. It's just like they come to see me. Of course, the devotees contact them and they arrange that. They come to see me, and then we have these conversations, and they go on for 2 hours. And nobody gets bored. I mean, they're really not bored. I'm not preaching to them. I'm giving them the philosophy, but empathizing with them simultaneously. So I find it's an ideal way of connecting with yourself, connecting with others in a very deep personal way, and bringing others to Krishna consciousness. I hope that answers your question.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Really.
Statement.
Thank you.
Anyway, thank you so much for sending all these nice spirit souls. I feel like I'm getting young again.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. I'll let Ujjwala Rasagya Mata, you are mute, please.
Yeah, Maharaj, yes. This wholesome devotee care series, Maharaj, that's why actually it is what it is now. We started doing this because in the congregation, as we talk to the devotees, as Adnan Prabhu is saying too, and as you are suggesting us of how to deal with this, we have noticed that the emotional aspect of ourself was not highlighted enough, is not brought to our attention. So when that is not acknowledged or repressed, and trying to do something spiritually, it wasn't going right. So that's why we thought we have to bring our attention, all of us, our devotees' attention as sadhakas, to know that there is something called as emotional aspect of us that needs to be acknowledged and cared for. And only then we will be able to practice bhakti that we all want to practice it. And that's why this series is brought into picture, Maharaj. the emotional health to be acknowledged and addressed, to practice spirituality at a deeper level in a more satisfying way, substantially. That's the whole theme of this series, Maharaj. And in that picture, we cannot ignore our physical health. So that's why each aspect of it is highlighted. And this is the final class of this series, Maharaj. We had experts speak on physical health, where they spoke on Ayurveda, pranayama, and yoga. And there were many requests from the congregation that we have follow-up series after those introductory series. So that is in the pipeline, that we want to bring those in. And as we see in the chat here, and we also had requests after the emotional health from Ramboru Mataji. So, and now as you're saying from Sri Radhika, and I was talking to Leela Shakti to the other day, maybe we'll get in touch with both of them so we can have the follow-up series on empathic communication. That's where we are at, Maharaj. All the introductory series are over. This is the final one, and we have the requests that we want to work on to provide the follow-up series in different aspects.
Great. This is fantastic. Thank you very much for doing this, for helping the devotees connect with their needs and develop a loving, functional society.
We didn't plan on this, Maharaj, actually. We just thought it would be a little something in the beginning, but as each aspect is being introduced to the devotees, and when we came to know how it is all important to us, then more requests started coming, needing more information and actually practice it in day-to-day life too. And that's why it is just expanding. So we are just going with the flow. That's it.
Okay, very good. Yeah, thank you for doing this. And if anyone's interested in further information, they can contact me or Sri Radhika or Leela Shakti about these, not just the seminars, but the workshops. I think mostly we learn through the interactive workshops with people. I mean, I can present things, but the interactive workshops are where you learn things, and that's where I really learned. You know, we had like 10 or 11-day intensives where we just I'm talking about with Marshall Rosenberg, where we just lived this. We just all lived together and just practiced under his guidance. I mean, this is the basic training that, I mean, even it would be good in the future to have intensives where devotees just live together and practice these things. I mean, I had some humorous exchanges with his people because they weren't all vegetarians, and of course I'm a vegetarian, in case you haven't guessed. So one time, this is a little joke, but one time they were serving dinner, and what they were serving for dinner, and half the people were vegetarians. They were serving dinner, and the cook announced, tonight we have a particular type of chicken for everybody. I could not restrain myself. I yelled out as loud as could be, and we had like a group of 20 people or 25 people. What about empathy for the poor chicken? And they got really upset with me. They said, "Why aren't you empathetic with the cook?" And I said, "What about the chicken? The cook wasn't killed and eaten." So, and also at the seminar, I was actually giving some classes on Krishna consciousness to the people too. So I was able to connect with some of them and talk about Krishna consciousness with them. It was really interesting. They all addressed me as Swami, like that. So it was a very interesting, enlightening time. But the main point I want to make is intensives where you live with people. I think the ones in Gita Nagari were good. They weren't quite intensives because they were based. They were in one sense because Ramapad Maharaj invited me for 2 years, and he was also talking about empathic communication. But what I mean by intensives, that's your whole life. You're just living empathic communication for like a week at a time. in an isolated place with no other responsibilities. Of course, chanting the holy names and everything like that. But you really imbibe empathy in such a circumstance like that. And maybe in the future we'll do some of those intensives
we
with the
look
devotees.
forward to. We look
Yeah.
forward to for that, Maharaj. Really, yes.
Yeah, I would love to guide some of those intensives, but I would need 2 or 3 trainers to do that because one person can't lead everybody 24/7 in them. It's a little bit too much. So when we did them with Marshall, we had about 3 or 4 different trainers that worked under him, and we like that. And then another thing is that in my practice of empathic communication and meeting Marshall Rosenberg's people, one of his professional trainers became a devotee. Madhuri Radhika, and she's a disciple of Bhakti Chumaraj. I just gave her second initiation, and she's a wonderful devotee. And she was a professional. She worked as a professional trainer, and she can also help with this quite a bit. You know, if we do, she'd be willing to come to America sometimes with her husband and do some seminars and work with Sri Radhika and myself. But so we even found some of his leaders like Madhuri Radhika becoming devotees. So anyway, I think that's it. I mean, I even need to exercise. You know, I'm.
Yes, Maharaj. Two final words, since this is the last session of the series, Maharaj. We will
Okay.
get in touch with you. So, because there are devotees from other yatras also, and we're sending all the information in the email,
Okay.
the recording of the class and all the resources, including the book, the Amazon link for the book, everything. So we will get in touch with you so we can send out that information. And to all the devotees, thank you so much for joining. And just to let you know, the introductory series are over, but as we line up all the other follow-up series, we'll keep you posted. We have your email addresses, so we'll keep you posted. And if you haven't given one to us, the email address, please feel free to do so we can keep in touch with you. Maharaj, if you don't, if you have to go exercise.
Well, does someone have another question? Does someone have another question or a point they wanted to make? Or
We see a hand here, Sri Radhika Devidasi. Is that right? Maybe that's the last one, and after that, please, Maharaj. Thank you. Thank you.
No, I don't have any question. I don't have a hand raised now.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
she's playing the piano in the background.
My son.
So,
Yes, thank you so much, Maharaj. This is wonderful. So I'm going to stay for a couple of minutes. If anyone has not given their email, you could put it on the chat and I'll take it from there. But thank you so much, Maharaj, for such a wonderful session. And thank you, everyone, for joining. And Hare Krishna. Krishna Maharaj ki jai.
You can leave my email too on there. I'll just type it.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll just type it in right now. Whoops. And there it is. Okay. See everybody later.
Thank you.
Great.
Haribol.
Thank you.
All
And
the way
pranams
Baba.
to all the devotees too. Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna, sir. If anyone would like to leave their email, I'll be on for a couple of minutes before dropping out. So you can just put it on the chat. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.
Hey.
Okay, Mataji. Okay, everyone. So I got the emails that were posted on the group. So we'll end here. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji and Adinarayan Prabhu, Adityanarayan Prabhu, for conducting these sessions.
Yes.
This is so useful for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Praveen Prabhu, for joining. So nice to have your association here. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.